Kia ora everyone and welcome to a computer side chat. Well, for my first chat I wanted to discuss something that was both a little bit personal but also something that I felt was very important, and that's mental health awareness. I do think it's a good thing that mental health issues have started to come to the forefront of discussion and that people have tried to look at solutions. Though it is very sad that we have had to allow so many casualties before we got to this point. And I'm not just talking about celebrities like Robin Williams, I'm talking about people's family, friends, communities who've been rocked by the epidemic that is mental illness. Now, while I am on the autistic spectrum, I've not been medically diagnosed with anxiety, depression, or any other uh, mental illness. But I've still had my struggles and my battles, and I wanted to talk about them, just to discuss what has been wrong, to discuss these battles and how I tried to conquer them, how I've tried to manage them. And I do hope that for some of you watching this video, this will help. So I guess the first battle I should talk about is probably my over-empathy. Now, people with autism or Asperger's syndrome are sometimes stated as lacking in empathy. There are definitely cases to support that, but for me, that couldn't be further from the truth. I am someone who thinks of others and does try to put myself in other people's shoes, but sometimes it gets to the point where I feel like I'm getting things wrong, that I feel like I'm embarrassing myself, and that can hurt me. Like, sometimes I'll have a social encounter with people. I do my best to try and come across as a really good guy, but sometimes I might try too hard and sometimes come across as a bit creepy. And and then when I come away from it, I find my mind is hammering me with, oh, look what you got wrong, the person will never want to talk to you again. You have this destructive mental voice coming down at you, just telling you all this, that you just, it's just cascading, feeding your fear. And it can frustrate you, and it can horrify you and scare you. And it may lead you to push the potential for a friendship with this person away. And, well, for me, the way I've tried to deal with this is to try and turn that destructive voice into a constructive voice. So to say to yourself, okay, look, you may have presented yourself wrong, but what can you do better? Is there a way you can redeem yourself? So to still criticize yourself, but say, build yourself up, don't knock yourself down. Give yourself another chance to try and make things right. And I think that is one of the most important things you can do with, with this issue. Just be willing to actually counteract that mental voice and say to yourself, okay, sure, you might have screwed up. Be willing to acknowledge that, but be constructive, not destructive. I guess the second most significant battle I've waged with my mind has also been, sometimes I remember really stupid things that I did when I was younger. And this can range from other activities that I might have done as a child that I may look at and now cringe at, and also some of my older videos I've had that reaction to, and I've actually gone to the point of deleting a good number of them. I've always had that problem with my mind. I'm someone who really worries about how he presents himself to the world, and I hate to come across as an idiot. And my mind has fed that. It has said, "Oh, remember that stupid thing you did several years ago?" And I've been, and it leads me to cringe. It leads me to get angry, to try and stop thinking about it, and to actually say, "All right, no more of this." What was important was actually another way of countering that, to rather than just allow it to take control of you and just throw it away in the hopes it'll never come back again, to acknowledge that yes, it happened. It might be embarrassing, it might be something you feel deep shame for, but the question you should ask yourself if you're ever in that position is to say, am I that same person? And if you're not, to say, I am not that person anymore. I've changed. To actually feel proud of yourself that you've evolved from that. It can be something so little as an embarrassing YouTube video to getting to this space right here, right now. But that's still important for personal growth. Being embarrassed is a very natural human emotion, but you shouldn't let yourself become controlled by it. Otherwise, it can hold you down forever, and it can actually be bad for your personal growth, your development. It's important to keep that voice in check. There's nothing wrong with being embarrassed about it, but don't let it get to the point where it keeps you ashamed and makes you paranoid of how you are viewed by your peers and your community. We're always changing. We're always evolving. Always remember that. And then there was my biggest battle. My longest battle, which took place over my teenage years. As I became a teenager, I began to gain an interest in certain things, ideas. Part of this was actually cosplaying Harley. However, teenage me, still very confused and very scared about what he wanted to be, repressed them. And I always felt guilty for having these thoughts. And whenever they came to my mind, I would try to repress them. I would just have my mind just say, no, if you ever pursued these, it would be reputational suicide. I would be an outcast. My friends, my family would all laugh at me. I just really got into this really paranoid, self-loathing period of my life. I just really hated myself. I, I, I was thankfully never at the point where I wanted to take my own life. I've never been at that point. But still, that had a big impact on me. I was paranoid that random people were talking about me behind my back. I just hated myself. And again, that value of how I present myself to the world was a big part of that. I didn't want them to see someone who came across as uh, what's the right word? Well, gay, I guess. I'm not homophobic or anything, but I was still really worried about what people would think of me if I were to pursue these ideas. And see, but I got into a period where I just hated that side of me, and I just tried to focus on the parts that I felt I could be proud of. My political side, for instance, I'm absolutely proud of that, and it shone. Many of my friends will tell you I had a reputation as the school's Politico. Um, but at the same time, I felt like my mind was bearing down on me. I just did not feel good about myself, even with those parts that I was more than happy to show the world. I had ultimately become a victim of my own fear, the unfounded, unrelenting, irrational fear that Roosevelt had warned the American people of when he became president in 1933, had gripped me by the throat. But then in 2014, that began to change. I met Maggie, my best friend. We started writing together, and then we started talking. We became friends, and I opened up to her. And little did I know that that little encounter had changed me forever. It was the first time I felt accepted and loved. She helped me fire the first salvo against that unrelenting fear. And the following year, it just came down more and more. I became a happier person. I became more open. And finally, it came to an end in Christmas 2015 when I said, screw it. This is what I want to do. And I finally had the courage to throw that great shadow of fear off of my back. And I'm all the happier for it. I feel at peace. I feel my mind. I feel victorious. I was simply overjoyed that I could be myself, all of myself. And I simply have to thank Maggie for that. There's a reason she's my best friend. She's done so much for me. She helped me find that courage that I so desperately needed. And for that, she is always going to have a special place in my heart. For fear is not necessarily a bad thing. It can stop you from doing certain things. But unfounded, unrelenting, irrational, uncontrolled fear, that can be some of the most damaging things to ever happen. And I'm glad that I finally managed to conquer it, to finally throw it in its cage. And sure, I sometimes get niggling little voices of self-doubt, but it's kept in check. And I feel I'm a much better person for that. Well, that was my first computer science chat. But thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.